Hello, this is Mr. C. Welcome back. This video is about multi-step equations and equations with variables on both sides. We're still going to be using the property of equality. And the property of equality is one where you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide, or other operations to both sides of the equation as long as you do it fairly. And I'm saying that fast, but you'll see it in action here. These equations are typically more complex and hard to do in your head. That's why the process becomes important. So let's look at the equation on the left. What you're going to want to do in any equation that's more complex is first decide if you can simplify either the left or right-hand sides of the equation. If we look on the left-hand side, notice we have two variables. Two constants. We have 17 plus 3. Those can be put together. So that's best to put together first. That's 20, and then we still have the minus x. On the right-hand side, that's just numbers. So we can do 15 minus negative 6, which again acts like 15 plus 6. That will be 21. Then we can use our property of equality, okay, because we can't do any more simplification. We can take away 20 from each side, and that will cancel out over here. We're left with, notice there's a negative, got to keep that negative x. And then 21, take away 20 is 1. Here you can just use reasoning. If the opposite of x is 1, then x must be negative 1. You can just change the sign. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have something a little bit different. This one has variables. This is part of the second property, variables on both sides. Notice there's x's on both sides of the equation. And actually, you can't simplify the left. Those are not like terms. And you can't simplify the right. Those are not like terms. So you just have to start using the property of equality. What I like to do first is to tackle the variables. If you have variables on both sides, get rid of one of them. I'm usually get rid of the smaller one. That way I don't deal with the negatives. The smaller here is 4x. So I'll subtract 4x because that's the opposite. Now what you do to the right-hand side, you also have to do to the left-hand side of the equation. This cancels out. We're left with 7x. Take away 4x is 3x. We still have plus 3.2 equals. Notice there's a minus 1.6. We're going to treat that as negative 1.6. Okay, here now we're basically down to a basic two-step equation. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 3.2 by subtracting 3.2, again to both sides using that property of equality. And you might get your calculator handy for something here, but you have 1.6, negative 1.6 minus 3.2. That'll give me negative 4.8. All right. And then the last property of equality step is to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Here we'll have negative 1.6. Negative 1.6. And you can use your calculator to verify that 4.8 divided by 3 is 1.6, or put the negative in there to get the negative 1.6. Let's take a look at a few more examples. Okay, here on the left-hand side, I have to go back to an earlier video and use the distributive property. Okay, so 7 times x would be 7x. 7 times minus 3, minus 21. And then just writing out the right-hand side. And like the previous problem, there's no like terms on either side of the equation, so you just have to tackle the property of equality. This time, the smaller of the variables is 7. So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides, canceling that out. Notice we're left with a negative 21. Here, 9x minus 7x is 2x. And then we're, again, trying to get x by itself. That's how we always decide what we're going to do. We have 2x minus 8. We're going to get rid of that 8 by adding 8. And the reason we're adding is that's the opposite. So negative 21 plus 8 will give me, I believe, negative 13. And that'll be equal to 2x. And my last step is divide both sides by 2. 2 doesn't go nicely into 13. That's okay. I'll just write my answer as that improper fraction, negative 13 halves. Okay, let's take a look at this one on the right-hand side. It looks intimidating, but it's not as bad as it looks because this one is a case where you have a lot of simplification that can take place on the first step. If you look at the left-hand side, notice that there's two variable terms. We have x plus 5x is 6x. And there's also two constant terms. We have negative 2 minus 13. Be careful of those signs. That's minus 15. The right-hand side, similarly, we have, in this case, three variable terms, 4x plus x, and remember there's 1 there, that's 5x, take away 2, gives us 3x, and then we just have this one constant, minus 4. Again, we now have just a basic variable on both sides equation, getting rid of the smaller one, minus 3x both sides. 6x take away 3x is 3x. We're left with a negative 4 on the right-hand side. Now, remember, we're getting x by itself, so we'll do the opposite of subtracting 15 by adding 15 to both sides. That gives me 11. And then my last step is to divide both sides by 3. And we have the, again, improper fraction, x equals to 11/3. So in summary, your basic strategy is to simplify both sides of the equation as much as you can, and then use the property of equality till you get x isolated by itself. I hope this helps.